Mie nimeokoka, Yesu Kristo ni Bwana wangu na Mwokozi wangu. Na hivyo basi namshukuru na mtukuza. So I'm here to glorify the Lord. I want to recognize that I'm a vessel. I'm just but a vessel that the Lord has fashioned for his glory and to be used of him as he so desires. Bwana atukuzwe. And so it's not by my strength, I'm just by the doing of the Most High. Na hivyo basi nashukuru Bwana maana amenipa neema, amenipa nguvu, amenipa uhai, amenipa afya, amenipa akili timamu na pia ningali kwa imani, ningali nimeokoka, bado yeye ni Bwana wangu. Someone praise God. Before we get into our part number 9 of the series that is ongoing, I want to bring us the prophet's voice of Shamar, and today we share the latest revelations about Kenya's church, and most of today is about the Kenyan the state affairs. And before I share those matters of the prophecies, which actually today is actually confirmations of prior warnings that I warned the state, and I think I also warned Raila Odinga and his family, and I warned the Church of Kenya, and those who take me serious, good. Those who take it lightly, too bad. But the confirmations that there are confirmations now of the warnings that I was led by God to give. So I gave prior warnings about what is happening in the now over the republic, and also over the, with the political class over the Republic of Kenya. So the political class in this case, we have the ruling coalition that is led by William Ruto, and we have the other wing, actually the opposition, that actually has been, that is led by Raila Odinga. Unfortunately, it is Raila Odinga who should be actually in the ruling coalition with their own outfit. And actually, the other party should be in the opposition. And as you see, the shoes is in the wrong feet. So the shoes that Raila Odinga should be wearing is being worn by William Ruto. And the shoes that, the seat that William Ruto is sitting on today is the seat that Raila Odinga should be the one sitting on. So as long as that is the situation in Kenya, as long as that's how things are in Kenya, Kenya cannot attract the blessings of God. Because you have an illegitimate element seated on the throne. And as it is in the Bible, we read that our slaves are actually riding on chariots, and the kings are barefooted on the road trekking. That is exactly where Kenya is today. And yet the Church of Kenya want to fool God, to bless such kind of scenario in the Republic. It is not so. It shall not be so. The best that Kenya maybe is enjoying right now is called the mercies of God. We are just by the mercies of God. That's why we are still existing. That's why we are still the way we look like we are not beaten. It is called the mercies of God. When it comes to also the righteousness of God, we are not deserving to demand anything as a nation because we don't have the right. So when you see the state rallying prayers, importing preachers, those are prayers that are wasted. Those are wasted prayers because they are prayers meant to hoodwink God, to twist God, to bless that which is not. Just like the way just like Joseph, when Joseph was blessing his children Manasseh and Ephraim. And so the right hand of Joseph's right hand, rather than be upon Manasseh, was upon Ephraim. So because Joseph was old at that time, he was releasing the blessing. So when he was praying for them, his hand will be removed so that his hand that was upon Ephraim, someone remove his hand and place it on Manasseh, and remove his other hand from Manasseh and put it also on Ephraim. So he found that eventually Joseph ended up blessing Manasseh and blessing Ephraim with an X. With an X. So that the blessing that was for Manasseh was from the left hand. And the blessing that was for Ephraim actually was from the right hand. Now Kenya is in the exact situation where it is an X. So Raila Odinga has cut himself off from the favors of God. And I say that, well, personally, I have not blessed Raila Odinga for the AU chairmanship. I've kept my mouth mum. But if you can read what I say, he's fallen out of favor with God. I know there are the bloggers out there at the moment. I finish talking like this because I'm aware a lot of Kenya's paparazzi prophets always are tuning in right now, though they don't really reveal themselves. So they are pseudo. They are following us in a pseudo manner. And they follow my prophecies, and immediately I'm done. They always know how to package it and give it to people. But those of us who are hear it from me. Whereas paparazzi, bloggers, and prophets, we may not really control them. But mine to say this truth. Raila Odinga has cut himself off from the favors he has been enjoying of God. And when we talk about an Esau selling away his birthright, the best example today is one Raila Amolo Odinga. He has sold his birthright. He has actually sold it. And worse is, he has sold it in his sunset days, when he has but short time in matters age, in his aging, in his elderly status. He has actually compromised the agenda God ordained through him for the nation, and he has settled for what befits him as a person. Esau settled for Jacob's bowl of soup. And so today we see the same scenario, that Raila Odinga has settled for small, cheap offers that actually are illegal, that are actually illegitimate, from one William Samoei Ruto. Ruto, in his actually desperation to survive, desperation to hang on into power, his desperation to hang in on there, he has played all tricks, and he has actually angled himself with all advices, with all counsels from everywhere. And his witches also have counseled him. And all of us know that Satan can counsel someone. That one we see in 1 Chronicles chapter 22. We see that also David got a counsel from one devil, and he provoked him. And so we see that in this case, we find that one William Ruto, in his desperation, he has angled himself for every kind of counsel. And the counsel that he receives also are very demonic, and they are meant actually and hell-bent to defeat the purposes of God through any other person in the Republic. And in this case, Raila Odinga has been kept in check, he has been cut off, and he has been hoodwinked and blinded. And actually, the path that Raila Odinga has taken right now, it will be impossible for Raila Odinga to recover politically. So I say that Ruto's ensnaring Raila Odinga is like the last nail in matters Raila Odinga's political career. Because as things are, Raila Odinga will not rise again as a political force in the Republic of Kenya. The die is cast, and I dare say he's lost it. For those of us in the Luo Nyanza who like celebrating everything, I am sure they won't celebrate what I've said. They'll be celebrating, they are celebrating the goodies that Ruto is actually dishing out to Raila Odinga and Luo Nyanza. And that tells you that we have a great lot of persons in Luo Nyanza who are actually under the spell of one Raila Amolo Odinga. He has become a demigod. When God wanted to have this man live to fulfill his destiny, the purpose for which he was created, he has sold himself cheap. And he has become a disappointment. And I'm sure that I'm not the only one that sees it. Others also that prophets of God can see it. Now, I shared about Ruto's 9th plague that will afflict him and the judgment that is eating Ruto's house right now. I told you some prophecy back then that because Raila Odinga has chosen to unite himself to Ruto, the judgment that Ruto actually is destined for, and the judgment that actually is afflicting Ruto's house, we find that the very same judgment, Raila Odinga has also angled himself to receive it. When you unite yourself, and that's what I said, when you unite yourself with someone that is being beaten by God, someone that is actually being afflicted by God, what will you expect? I remember in the prophecies earlier then, I gave us an example of a scenario of one Jehoshaphat and also King Ahab. Jehoshaphat, son of King Asa, Bible says that he was actually a God-fearing king. Bible depicts Jehoshaphat as a righteous king. And the same Bible faults him for his alliance with Ahab. And so because of his alliance with Ahab, considering that Ahab married to Jezebel were a duo that were enemies of God. They were a couple whose leadership defeated or actually frustrated the purposes of God over Israel. So Ahab and Jezebel were a king and a queen over Israel. Jehoshaphat was actually king over Judah. So God had an issue with the alliance that Jehoshaphat formed with Ahab. We find that one in 2 Chronicles 18, verse number 1. The affinity where Ahab joins affinity with Jehoshaphat. God faults it. Even after Jehoshaphat escapes the death, that actually the death that was meant for Ahab, after he escapes that death, we find that Jehoshaphat again get into another business partnership with Azariah, the son of Ahab. Then that business, God frustrated. There used to be businessmen making ship that goes to places like Tarshish. Yeah? And God again frustrates that business. Why? Jehoshaphat is a child, a son of covenant. His father cut covenant with God. So covenant cut by Asa will work into preserving the life of Jehoshaphat. So he escapes the first one, and then he escapes the second one. We find that today Ruto and Raila Odinga are into an ungodly alliance, an alliance that God does not approve, an alliance that God has not blessed, an alliance that does not draw the favors of God. The Church of Kenya, the clergy that actually are in the right books with the state, appears to be like the prophets of Pharaoh. They appear like to be the prophets that clap their hands, and they are like celebrating everything. They are actually celebrating everything. They are blessing everything, and actually they have been used to fool the king that God has favored Ruto. Kenya and the Church of Kenya know this. God has a problem, and he still has the problem with Ruto in leadership. And he has not approved Ruto's governance, neither has he approved Ruto's partnership with Raila Odinga. Raila Odinga went and fell into it because he ignored the counsel that we have given to him, and also because he has been actually ensnared. And you can be sure that Ruto's charms offensive works. They call it charms offensive. But remember that even Pharaoh had witches. And these witches also could convert water in the pool to be blood. Also, Pharaoh's witches had serpents. Only that Pharaoh's serpents ended up being swallowed by serpents that were a serpent that was actually the rod of Moses. So the rod of Moses transformed into a serpent that swallowed Pharaoh's serpents. But remember that also Pharaoh's witches and sorcerers were able to cast down their staffs or their sticks and their rods, which turned out to be serpents. And those serpents, though they were vicious, eventually they were swallowed by the rod of Moses that actually turned out to be a huge serpent that swallowed those other serpents. Now that tells us that the battle over the Republic of Kenya is not just a battle in the lower realms of the heavens. These are battles in the higher realms in the spiritual realm of Kenya. And they are battles that are meant to defeat purposes of God over the Republic of Kenya. And Ruto is not just by himself. There is a bigger force. There are gods. Actually, Satan. His gods are behind Ruto. So Kenyans, we are actually being fed Babylonian system of governance. And that's why the Republic of Kenya is being aligned into one world government. One world government. So one world government is actually at play, where Kenya is trying to be, Kenya is being aligned, being well formatted, so that it is in league, well placed with the agenda Satan wants to do over the world. And it's because Kenya is the nation that God has actually ordained to use it for the end time revival. And Satan knows it. That's why Americans are attracted to Kenya. Europeans are attracted to Kenya. The world has its attention in Kenya. Matters finance and matters economy. Now, for Christians, this is what you should know. That when you see Kenya being actually the focus of the entire globe, just know that end times, we are in the end times. And what Satan wants to do is to try defeat the purposes of God, especially revival, so that there will be love of money in Kenya. There will be a chase for wealth in Kenya. There will be a chase, there will be a scramble for financial prosperity in Kenya. And Kenya is actually looked at or viewed as the financial hub, economic hub in visions 2040, 2050, and 2070. Ask America, they'll tell you that they have Kenya in their radar for the next 50 years. Ask China, they'll tell you that they have their eyes on Kenya for the next 50 years. Where have they gotten into from? The devil. Ask Europe, why are they attracted to Kenya? Their vision 2040, 2050 is actually will be activated through Kenya. They want to make it from Kenya. So Kenya's workforce, Kenya's engineers, young people, and Kenya's ingenious businessmen are the target. So the Church of Kenya and the Christians in Kenya are actually being ensnared. Most of them will get themselves to chasing after the allures of wealth and money. Because you find that when all these people come to Kenya, they'll want to invest in Kenya, and they'll want a working force from Kenya. That working force, most of whom are Christians. And rather than people seek and wait on God, they'll be angling themselves for these big monies. China got money. Europeans have money. All the big companies. Don't you see they're actually opening offices in Nairobi? If they don't find it in Nairobi, they angle themselves into Uganda, as long as they are near Kenya, some into Tanzania. And the farther you go is just here in Ethiopia. Proximity to Kenya. We are in the end times. And money, here ahead. Ahead of us, there will be economic boom. That economic boom, our young people will actually be sought after. And that one is meant to beat revival quest. Because, it is meant to beat revival. So there shall be revival on one hand, but again, there shall be an economic boom on the other hand. And so that is the plan the devil has. So that many will be hoodwinked to settle for pursuing after money, pursuing after wealth, and the allure of wealth, not God. But there will be a session that will be really seeking God. There will be a session, because that is what revival will have brought. When revival hits a nation, there will be church prospering. Then there also will be a nation prospering. Now the prosperity of the nation actually will be a recipe also for many backsliding. The devil will be in the details. Whereas also there's a prosperity that is born of God, because that is part of revival. Once revival actually takes place, there will be economic boom. People will be fulfilling destinies and such. Maybe some people will not be alive, but some will be. So the process has begun now. That's why we find that all the trillionaires and all the millionaires, they have their office already in Kenya. Bill Gates has his offices in Nairobi. We find that Ruto is being welcomed by almost everybody. The Apple CEO, Facebook CEO. You also hear about SpaceX CEO. And imagine all these rich elements, except Warren Buffett, that has not yet had an audience with William Ruto. But all the rest, plus all the idols on earth, they have found that Ruto is a darling. It's not that Ruto is a darling. It is the nation Kenya. Satan wants to find his footing, and Satan is sending his army. Satan is sending his agents. Satan is sending his operatives. Satan is sending his principalities, matters finance and industry, in the Republic of Kenya. And that is why the leadership of Kenya is scrambled for. Satan has a play. Satan has a hand, and Satan wants to have a voice. And God finds it evil. And the church missed it. They are not seeing it. Church of Kenya has missed it. So the alliance that Ruto has with Raila Odinga is actually an ungodly alliance. God did not authorize it. God did not ordain it, and God has not blessed it. Now the result is 5 months to Ruto's exit, because this is actually September. So count it, so we have October to March. Now 5 months to Ruto's exit. This alliance that Ruto has actually made with Raila Odinga spells doom. I told you that it was doom. And so it precipitates. It actually adds. It actually catalyzes situation in the realm of the spirit that actually will qualify Ruto's exit. Now look at Kenya where we are. With Raila Odinga swallowed on the other side, Luo Nyanza swallowed, and so there's no much activity that will oppose the government from the Luo Nyanza. Ruto sits back a little bit to rest from many afflictions that he was getting, because Raila Odinga was actually a face of a face of opposition to Ruto's agenda, and Ruto succeeding to have Raila out of the equation is the effort by Satan through the Western operatives. When I told you, when you see these white-skinned fellows that suddenly they are actually flying into Kenya in huge numbers, big numbers, frequently like this, please be suspicious. There's something. And Raila Odinga being one that wants to appear like a Democrat, want to appear like a freedom fighter, and want to appear like one that respect the rule of law, and wants to maintain his international tag as a freedom fighter and democracy, one that is a democratic fighter. He'll always angle himself to be, to appease the West and to hear the West. They told him, support the man. Support the man. And I think Ruto must have cried. I see Ruto actually his many visits to America and the goodies. Those goodies, he must have also made his request. Now, right now, in the Republic of Kenya, as we are, we don't have an opposition. Everything that we thought we fought for, plus what Gen Zs were trying to fight for, they're being sneaked back cleverly and cunningly. Who shall talk? Nobody. The church can't talk. The church were actually rendered into being a prayerful machine. They are praying foolish prayers. They are praying rejected prayers. They are praying Pharisaic prayers. They are praying rejected prayers. They are praying hypocritical prayers. And they can be funded to have those rallies. That is what the Church of Kenya's clergy have been actually rendered to do. So there's no one coughing, no one scoffing, no one criticizing, no one questioning, and no one expressing disappointment. Kenya has gone into another limbo. While in this limbo, plague number 9 will hit. While in this limbo, disasters will come. Disasters will come. I told you that Raila Odinga will enter Ruto's dragnet. Ruto's snare. So in that dragnet, I told you that Ruto will have Raila tagging along with him to go beg for money. I laughed the other day. I just said, wow, did I not say something like this? So I hear that Raila went to China with Ruto. Someone told me so. So Raila is being actually peddled around. Ambia Chinese, tunataka pesa ya Kisumu railways gauge. You can imagine now Ruto being a one good broker, but there is actually is very linguistic, very oratic in his communication skills. So you can imagine him telling Chinese China president, this one now is a man of peace in our nation, so we are no longer fighting. But I've come with him to prove that we want money. And I did not disappoint. I told you, and I actually made it look like actually a lighter one, that Ruto will tag along with Raila Odinga everywhere internationally to beg for money. Now what does that mean? That means that Kenya's debt portfolio will keep on skyrocketing. I tell you that during Ruto's time, he shall borrow like not any other president in Kenya since history. Now, has my prophecy been confirmed? Kenyatta never borrowed money like this. The senior Kenyatta, Jomo. Moi never borrowed money like this. I remember Hempston, the U.S. ambassador to Kenya, was actually fiery on Moi. I remember actually the IMF stiff measures in the year 1991, 1992, in the 90s, where Moi had to actually bow down to the IMF demands. The economy became tough. Well, Moi never borrowed like this one. Come Kibaki, he did not borrow like this. Now enter Uhuru. He borrowed, but his Siamese twin has broken the record. He has borrowed more than all those former presidents combined. I told you, check the prophecies and confirm the record. What Ruto has borrowed, he has broken the record. So I told you that he'll be in a borrowing spree. Today, the spree has not stopped. With Raila Odinga on his side, Musalia Mudavadi, who also sounded like he detests borrowing. Today is the one actually who supports borrowing. That's why you can never trust politicians. Today they sound like angels of God. Tomorrow they actually Lucifer reincarnated. So what it means that for Kenya, that's why I told you it is doom. Actually, the partnership and the alliance of Ruto and Raila actually spells doom for the nation. This is what it means. That today, the debt portfolio still keeps on increasing. You hear that when they are done with China, you shall hear them next. They'll go to the EU. They'll go to the EU, European Union. And that means that those ones who hoped that Kenya's economy will turn out to be smiling and rosy, you are cheated. They may have controlled the shilling, because shilling is being controlled and actually being stage managed to try to beat the prophecies that I told you. But please, it's just short-lived. It is very short-lived. Kenya's economy will start showing its real face. When you keep on borrowing, using people's money, the sovereignty of a nation was sold. These are things God revealed to me. I've told Kenyans before. Today it is confirmed. So with no opposition, legislation in parliament will be very foolish, ridiculous, laughable legislations. That will always be passed without checking. Let them pass. And that's the danger of a nation where you have a king who is a monster, who swallows everything and everybody. He has swallowed the entire government, so no one can talk. He has swallowed the entire opposition. No one talks. So it is left for the likes of Kenawanjigi to be arrested, to be thrown, to be beaten, and small boys here and there making noises. So Kenya is just like that, a one-party state. Prophecy confirmed. I told you that Ruto will be worse than Moi. So you see, Ruto actually manifesting the Moi of our days. Make sure that other parties and politicians are swallowed and suppressed. The church is silenced and any vocal voice kept in check. Moi did it. Ruto is perfecting it. Told you that you'll have a dictator for real. There he is. A modern day dictator. But all this is actually manifestation of the forces that are behind Ruto. Forces that are fighting for Kenya's space. There's what Raila Odinga stood for, that God wanted fulfilled. And then there's what Ruto actually represents. So he represents some other interest. But I told you that God will still have his way eventually. Plague number 9 and plague number 10 are the two plagues that are going to finish Ruto. Those two plagues. Those two plagues. Plague number 9 is a plague that actually has twin aspect of it. Twin aspect in the sense that it will also have really dire consequences on Kenya's economy. And the other wing will have real consequences on Ruto's house and Ruto's health. Plague number 9 is a plague that will actually affect the nation Kenya greatly by actually the exit of Ruto. Not very good, but that's it. That's what is there. I can't change it. I have not been told to speak anything else. But plague number 10, which plague number 10 will actually be a plague that totally cuts Ruto from power. Plague number 9 is actually a plague that will plague Ruto in matters of health, which I'll tell you specifically in which part of his body. And with all the woes we have, you lack an opposition. So Raila Odinga has sold his part and he may not recover. Those of us who wanted to confirm, let me let you know that Raila Odinga's alliance with Ruto actually precipitates disaster for the nation. My parting shot is actually Ezekiel chapter 3. And I want to read this one to go on record for maybe if Raila as a pastor and those who are his intercessors before, so that my hands be clean. Verse 18 says, when I say unto the wicked, you shall surely die, and you givest him not warning, nor speaketh to warn the wicked from his wicked way, to save his life, the same wicked man shall die in his iniquity. But his blood will I require at your hand. I am discounted from that because I warned Raila Odinga. Yet if thou warn the wicked man, and he turns not from his wickedness, nor from his wicked way, he shall die in his iniquity. But thou hast delivered your soul. Obviously and openly I've delivered my soul. Again, when a righteous man does turn from his righteousness and commit iniquity, and lay a stumbling block before him, he shall die, because thou hast not given him warning. He shall die in his sin, and his righteousness which he has done shall not be remembered, but his blood will I require at thine hand. So also righteous people can err. Nevertheless, if thou hast warned the righteous man that the righteous sin not, and he does not sin, he shall surely live, because he is warned. Also, thou hast delivered your soul. I have delivered my soul, also from having warned Ruto before. And the hand of the Lord was there upon me, and he said unto me, arise, go forth into the plain. I will talk there. I will there talk with thee. Then I arose and went forth into the plain, and behold, the glory of the Lord stood there, as the glory which I saw by the river Shabar, and I fell on my face. That is one Ezekiel confirming the vision that the Lord gave him. Today I've also warned, and actually I'm following into the warnings I've given Raila Odinga. And so I told you that God in his judgment, the way he is judging Ruto and his house, God will judge Odinga plus his house. And I say that there will not arise someone in Odinga's house to champion and continue the mantle that he has held over the republic. Why so? Because he has disappointed God. And I say that God will actually pass the baton to someone else that has never been heard better than before. That someone will be Evans Odhiambo Kidero. So in Luo Nyanza, the leadership mantle will leave the central part of Nyanza, that is actually the other side, the Siaya, and shall be transferred to the southern part, which actually today you called Homa Bay. That's where the mantle for leadership now will go. And Raila Odinga will only be remembered as someone who was almost there, but never attained it. It's because he's like a sheep that was able to plow the waters. The voyage that was able to come through, but only sings at the dock. Very unfortunate, but yet very true. Olokre ye manima kose chupe the wath to onimo maratiel. Onima nima maradiel. And so we see others say, well, the nation is at peace. I say, the nation is at peace. Question is it is it born of God or born of men? Those of us who understand the spiritual dynamics I've revealed to you, where does the Church of Kenya belongs in this? And now you know. And for that, wait for 5 months as Ruto exits. But as he exits, you say that there will be 2027 elections. I say, you Kenya, stop dreaming. There will be no elections in 2027. Why? Because between now and the 5 months, the things that are bound to happen will actually render the nation into constitutional crisis. So there will be constitutional crisis in Kenya, and that will actually send us back into Kenya trying to set up constitutional or actually try to set up constitutional bodies that will need to be in place to open up or actually to, to bring equity and to settle what need to have been settled earlier, because Ruto's being in office was not God's will. Those who have ears to hear ye now what the Spirit of God saith. My Father, I have delivered the message you have me delivered. And I pray the Lord Jehovah, may I be counted, Lord, innocent, and there be no blood of anybody, Lord, upon my head. I pray the Lord, my Father, may it be counted for me as righteousness, because I've warned, and the confirmations of the warning, Lord, are now, my Lord, being made obvious. Actually, they are being made, they are becoming real in the face of many. I thank you because, my Father, you know them that are yours. May them that are yours, them that are righteous, Lord, remain under your Shema. I pray that, Father, the Church of Kenya, thou will know them that are yours and them that are remnants. May you preserve them, Lord, for the noble cause that you have cut out, Lord, for the nation, even, my Father, in the future. We pray that even now, my Father God, thou will preserve our lives, Lord, that even when things will bite, my Lord Jehovah, you shall preserve us, Lord, against such evil that the enemy may bring, Lord, and such evil that also, Lord, will devour them that are wicked in the land. Thank you for hearing me in Jesus' name.